everything you fix on set is going to affect every image. So if there is lint on, let's say, a shirt or a stain, like even if it takes 5 minutes for the person to change their shirt, that will save you so much time. If you have 50 images, you're going to have to take that out of later. So again, and if it's not that case, if it's one single image and you just need to get it, the sun's perfect and you want to nail it, then okay, I'm going to shoot this with the intent that I'm going to make sure I can, get it framed up and shot in a way that'll be easier to take out, where there's not a weird shadow going across it, and, just to make your life a lot easier. And that's just something that we learned. And I think thinking about the entire process as a whole is kind of next level, if you will. We're talking about growing. Like that is something, like not I shoot, I edit, or I think about a shoot, I edit. It's the whole thing. What's the process from start to finish? And that becomes just part of everything that you think about and do. Like that will move you to that next level as a creator, really, not just photography, but really anything you do, I think.
Yeah, and thinking about the end result first, and then sort of almost like, taking the process upon thinking, like, okay, how can I get there in the most, efficient way possible? And we talked about this before we went on there. We were talking about how we make videos, for example, and we were talking about, free flowing and talking to camera without a script, basically, compared to actually scripting all the talky bits for a video, and what effect that can have on the post-production. For instance, like I mentioned earlier, but for me, there are situations where I shoot to a script and it saves me so much time afterwards, because everything else on that video, it basically comes off of the script. First of all, the script itself means that I'm not waffling, unlike I do on this podcast, clearly. But, it means that everything is concise and to the point, and, and I'm not repeating myself and all the rest of it. But on the other hand, when it comes to the edit, then I know exactly, for instance, what B-roll I need to produce. I know exactly how the sequence of events is going to be in the edit, so actually putting the whole thing together afterwards just saves you so much time. And it can really make the difference, between spending, 10 hours or something editing a video and like spending 2 hours editing a video, or even less than that, So it's just about really thinking about the workflow. And actually, this podcast is a really good example, because not too long ago, I switched around the way that I make this podcast. I used to record this podcast on Zoom, and now I'm using a different thing called Ecamm. And really what it does is it cuts the amount of time I need to edit afterwards in half. That's especially when I'm talking about the YouTube version. So if you are listening to the audio version of this, be reminded there's a fully fledged, fully technicolored version over on YouTube as well. So it's sometimes really just thinking, okay, well, how can I make this process more efficient, so that I don't have to do anything that's unnecessary, really?
Yeah, I think embracing technology is like super important. And I think it's easy for us to not, right? We find a way that works for us, or we think that works for us, and we just don't look anywhere else. And sometimes even things that were considered like entry level or amateur, or, just people having fun with it, whatever, how you want to describe it, can be great tools for professionals. Like, it's crazy how good some of this stuff is. And you're just like, wow, you can do so much stuff now, and it saves you time, which gives you more time to be creative, right? I never think of anything as fixing. I think that's where you start having the issues, where you're looking for something to fix something that you did wrong. That's where you got to back up and go, okay, hold on, no, we should have done a better job on the shoot. But anything that can help you and make your life easier is like phenomenal, and thinking about the final result, even if it's not, like, a lot of times I'll get a model and we'll just shoot. And like, I don't have an idea. People will ask me this all the time. They'll be like, well, did you think this was going to be the shot? So in that case, I'm not like, I don't know the final shot per se, but I know the idea. Like, I know why we're getting together. We're getting together to do something, right? And that thing is in my head as we're creating. It might take us a while to get there. We might be leaning towards it, but whatever is in my head is there, so that when we get to the end, I know I have it, right? You do want to have an idea, even if the idea comes to you halfway through the shoot, right? You want to have it before you end the shoot. You don't want to leave the shoot going, I think I got some pictures that are good, I'll figure it out. Like, that's not where you want to end any particular shoot. So having some kind of an idea, or at least checking in on yourself as you're shooting, is important, no matter what kind of project it is.
Exactly. I always call it a seed. I always want to have sort of a seed, and then as you get into it, into the creative process, you allow that seed to grow, and then you don't necessarily know what the what the end result is actually going to be like. You just know that you've planted the seed, and then the process is the growing process, basically. And then you end up with the finished plant. I don't know where I was going with this. Never mind. Yeah. But, it happens a lot. I think, really across all creative endeavors, I remember doing a thing, not too long ago, I did a thing for Platypod where I basically wanted to prove that you could use relatively small LED panels to create professional standard headshots. And initially, everybody went like, well, you need a big light source because blah, 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 and this and the other, it's going to be too hard, it's not going to be soft enough there. And I thought like, so you're saying I can't do it? Well, I bet I can. And I just found a way to do it. And that's basically that. And so it was, I didn't really necessarily know how good the outcome was going to be, but it was just, putting that seed in the ground and then trusting the process. And actually, to be honest with you, I surprised myself with the outcome, if I'm honest. Right. I didn't necessarily think that the results were going to be as good as they actually ended up being. But, that's cool. Prove the concept.
Yeah, that's always good. No, I like this too. And kind of on that, although it wasn't the case in your case, do things that you don't know are going to work, I think is a good way to grow. Allow yourself to screw up, to fail, to take bad pictures. So don't go into things. I mean, I used to tell people all the time, this is one thing that's nice about being a little more established, was I would have model friends and stuff, and I would say, I want to shoot something. We might not get anything. Like, I just want to try something. This could be garbage. But, I'll buy you lunch, and we'll hang out and we're friends, and they were down, and or they'd be like, okay, that's cool, but I also need a headshot. Can we use some kind of a trade? And that's where this interacting and trading with people comes in. And it's like, all right, well, that's fine, but now I'm going to do this, and you may never see these pictures because, and I think those are the times where we can grow, when we're not afraid of failing, because that's what will happen, right? You're going to get this person. It's hard for you to find somebody to photograph. You finally get a friend to volunteer. You don't want to have a picture they don't love. So instead of growing and trying and moving on and doing different techniques, you're like, I'm just going to shoot this thing I know works. And I think that might not be the ideal. So if you are going to do that, make sure you're also doing something after, then pushing it just beyond to a point where you're like, I don't know if it's going to work. I think it is. I have an idea. I think I understand it. But, I mean, who knows, right? We're going to find out in a minute, and you find out.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full episode in glorious Technicolor. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe.